So, greetings and salutations! My name is 𝐒𝐲𝐨𝐬𝐵, and I'm with Dungeons Divided, a tabletop role-playing game channel that streams and uploads to Twitch as well as YouTube. In just a couple of days, we'll be diving into and playing a brand new game that just recently hit shelves. Now, it's currently it currently is and has been one of the hottest franchises on the market for well over a decade. We're talking about the AMC's The Walking Dead. Now, we've all seen the trivia games, the card games, the video games, and even a couple board games or two, but now, thanks to Free League Publishing and some of their partners, we have access to the tabletop RPG. Now, tonight, it is my great pleasure to have an opportunity to sit down and chat with one of the game's developers, and I'm going to let him introduce himself in just a moment. And that moment is now!
Hi! I'm 𝐒𝐩𝐿𝐴. I'm one of the producers and brand managers working with Free League and AMC on the Walking Dead role-playing game.
Oh, that is so awesome.
It's been a lot of fun.
Now, Joe, you are not necessarily with Free League Publishing, is that correct?
No, I run a company called Genuine Entertainment. We're essentially a 𝐒𝐲𝐽 for media companies that when they have an IP like The Walking Dead, where it should be in multiple forms of media, it should be doing things that make fans happy, but it has to be good. It has to be canonical. It has to be authentic. It has to be with the right people and done the right way. Sometimes you need a Sam to your Frodo. And so that's my company. Occasionally the Gandalf, but it is, for the most part, my privilege and pleasure to be working with brands like this and help them to be making things like this with Free League in a way where everyone can be put in a position to do their best work and just enjoy extending these IP in ways that matter to the brand and the fans.
Oh, that is so awesome. I love that response. So in kind of bouncing off that, what exactly is it that you do with Genuine Entertainment?
So I'm the CEO and founder. So this is now a little over 7 years running the company, and so we.
Congratulations.
No, thank you. Yeah, it's pretty it's pretty trippy. But it is essentially my job to first actually get the rights. Sometimes I represent the people who own it, and sometimes I'm with the people who just really want to make something for it. But regardless, my job is pretty much the same no matter what. After the dotted lines are signed, I help with approvals, kind of like a line producer in a way where I'm making sure that everything's being done on time. I help with the budget. I help with logistics. I help with game design. I help with creative. I can even really step in and help with art direction. I wrote like 100,000 words for the Blade Runner RPG as the lead setting writer.
Oh, yes.
It changes every time. It just really whatever is called of me as a sonic screwdriver of sorts for the creative process. But it keeps it very interesting. And I've been working with Free League for a long time now, and somehow every single time it's different. So it always blows my hair back a bit whenever we get to play again.
Oh man, that's exciting! And I'm literally looking at the background of some of your games, seeing some of the figurines.
Oh, yes.
I'm just excited, and I'm thrilled to be talking with you. I could go on about this stuff all day long, but we'll come back to that. So how I think we sort of touched on this, but how long have you actually been working in game development? Because I know you've worn many hats over the years.
Yes. Officially for about a little over 10 years now. Unofficially for my entire life. But I would say probably the first technical credit was on the Genesis, a little indie RPG game that we helped to put out way back in the day, and then we helped an old college friend release a tabletop game on Kickstarter back when it first started called Boss Monster, and that was kind of like our way in. And then the more we started meeting people, the more we started geeking out and all the conventions and high-fiving in aisles, the more just started to make friends and realize a lot of people could need some help doing this stuff. So started working with World of Darkness and Alien and Dune and Blade Runner, and everything just spiraled from there. But apparently being a super geek about this stuff and being able to look like your best friend, your mom, and a perfect stranger in the eyes and be able to say, like, I love this is like superpower. So I am fortunate that I've been able to play. I don't only play in tabletop, but it's become a home for me, really.
That's
I love
a great
it.
way to put it.
Yeah.
We actually had so in our show we have a bunch of voice actors playing as well, and I remember we were shooting a promo, and one of our lovely voice actresses, she, in her promo thing, she was talking about tabletop gaming, and she said when she thought about it, she looked at the camera and she said, to me, it's home.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, oh. I was like, you don't realize how important that was. It's so beautiful of a moment.
I owe my life to it, honestly. I mean, I started in film and TV way back in, like 20 some years ago, and film, like, no one wanted sci-fi or fantasy. Like, no one thought geeks were going to inherit the earth. So there was like 20 of us in town, and all we could do was just meet every Sunday and play D&D together. And it was just like this grounding experience for us all, like this cathartic little safe space to be like, it's okay to be a geek and love this stuff. We're going to make it. And it made some of my best friends. It made some of my best relationships. Like, it really, I don't know where I would be without figuring out who I was rolling dice. It's the very best version of me.
I'm trying so hard not to get off track here. I'm loving it because I grew up in the 80s and 90s and everything.
Yeah.
Like, I'm all about the old fantasy and sci-fi. Matter of fact, those were my first films. We're talking like what was it? Oh God, I can't even think of it now. Conan the Barbarian, Red Sonja. What was it, the guy who could talk with the animal Beastmaster series of movies?
I wrote my thesis on Beastmaster.
No way.
Beastmaster and Commando, yeah.
Oh man.
That's when I knew I was screwed.
Oh God. We're gonna have, and I worked in film and television for over a decade as well.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, we're gonna have to talk later after this little interview.
That. Yeah. Well, when I don't have the flu, we should go grab a coffee.
Absolutely. So let's see here. One of the questions I had for you. So I've been dying now. So was it? I guess you kind of answered this, but I was going to say, was this your first collaboration with Free League Publishing? And no, it wasn't. You just mentioned that you'd What do you remember? What your first one was? Have you?
Oh, most certainly. Yeah, it was Alien. Was the first.
That's so cool.
I basically fell in love with Tales from the Loop. It's like one of my favorite RPGs of all time, and I flew to Gen Con and I basically professionally harassed Thomas until he agreed to be my friend. And then I just begged him to work with me, and he's like, well, we would really like to do licensing, but we don't really know how to get into that world. We could need some help. And I'm like, what do you want? And I had known the people at Fox for forever, and so next thing we knew, we were making Alien together, and it just came together so beautifully. I've learned so much from them, and just having so much fun reverse engineering IP, and just really thinking about the role play and the story first, and then finding rules that help people to organically, authentically tell the kind of story that IP would want you to at the table. It's such an alchemy, but the way they do it is so inspiring. I'm very lucky that the first time I was able to really develop an RPG with someone, it was with Thomas on Alien. Like, I couldn't have asked for a better grad school.
Wow. That's really amazing. Like, that worked out so well for you, and
I'm lucky.
Man. Way to schmooze your way in there.
Well, it's as I said, sometimes just being nice and excited about stuff is an advantage.
Yeah. So whose idea? Because I've asked Matthias this over at Free League and during our interview. And by the way, if you guys haven't seen the interview yet, which I'm sure it hasn't been posted yet, go back and check out that interview as well. Very insightful, wonderful guy.
He's a great guy.
We spent about close to an hour just chit chatting and wonderful stuff.
Yeah.
But so I've asked him before. I had meant to rather. Whose idea was it to develop this game?
It was AMC's. I'll be 100%.
They approached you guys about it.
So, well, here's what happened. I'm friends with the cats at AMC, and we just like hang out at Comic-Con and grab coffee. And there were some guys here in LA, it's like an old friend. And it was just one of those things where you watch people grow up in the industry, and we had always wanted to work together in some way. And it was that thing of like, why haven't you done an RPG yet for The Walking Dead? Like, I'm just going to ask the dumb question and then get shot down immediately. And they're like, we've always wanted to. We just never felt like we could. You know, they didn't want to do a licensed thing. They just didn't want to form it out. Like, the dude who's control of the whole universe was like on our approvals and like telling us, you know, what to do canonically. You can't just do a deal with something like that. Like you have to have a real collaboration. And it just so happened that I had the trust there and the relationships there that all the stars aligned in a way that AMC actually could partner with someone. They could actually like co-produce and co-publish an RPG that was a canonical part of this next chapter in a way that just wouldn't have been possible otherwise. So it was just kind of kismet how there's just a bunch of people in the same room that just really wanted to make this thing. You know, it's strange when there's this TV franchise that's been on for like 20 seasons across all these spinoffs, and like they're like, no, but let's talk about the RPG. Like, it's weird to be at that high of a priority for a thing that big, but it meant that much to them. So we were just very fortunate that we were put in a place where we could work with the right people and actually collaborate with them and make something that they were geeking out about and rolling dice over. It was a really fun experience overall.
That's so cool, because I mean, you can only go so far with card games. With these little board games, you're subject to the parameters of a game, you know, very linear gameplay.
Yeah.
So
well, and I feel like the time was right for this kind of game. Like I love RPGs, and I've been a gamer for forever across every format imaginable. But like, the idea of loss, the idea of sacrifice, the idea of survival from like a role play character perspective, we haven't fully seen that until like the last few years or so. You know, like I don't know if someone would have signed up for The Walking Dead 20 years ago, they would have just been rolling for damage against walkers. You know, it wouldn't have been the right version of it, where people were like, no, they're just an environmental threat. And one of many. And the real story is the character drama and what it brings out in me and what it brings out in you. I don't think we were there as a format, as a medium, until this new renaissance of what's been happening with our RPGs. So to be able to not just make the RPG, but at the right time where we could do that kind of storytelling and watch people just take it and run with it like crazy, I think that was like the most rewarding part, that it wasn't about mechanics. You know, it wasn't about a gimmick that we have to spin so we can sell something at Target. It was just like, how do we interpret this IP into the most authentic version of itself at the table, and actually having the people, the decision makers, being like, yep, do that. That's nice. That's a rare privilege.
I also love the fact that it's so relatable. You can take it. You can take it anywhere. You don't have to be a sci-fi lover. You don't have to be a fantasy lover. You don't have to be someone that is embracing the nerdum culture or whatever. It could be anywhere. It could be at your farm. It could be at the high school. It could be anywhere. Yeah, it's so great.
It's become like almost like an on ramp for me for like my friends that are trying to get into gaming and role playing, where like I can just trick them in a way, like they'll be play testing something else, or like they're ready for a board game, and I'll just be like, you hear something outside. And you could literally run a game of Walking Dead. Like right now, you and I could be in a session just like that in our real worlds, in our real selves. And it's just so utterly vulnerable being in that kind of game where there is no wall between you and the very worst possible things happening right outside your door. It was
sitting in the
intoxicating.
chair next to you.
Yeah, like it was. Oh,
Aw.
Yeah, it was really, really fun to be able to build that kind of game and just see people go nuts on it in a way where, you know, I love a lot of the other games that we've made and the games that I've played, but like there is something so universal about The Walking Dead where no one has to take a huge leap and imagine what it would be like to be in that world. It's your world. It's just spiraling. What are you gonna do? And it's just such a fun lens into it that I never get tired of it. It's one of my favorite sandboxes.
I love that. So we're diving in questions one after another, which is great. Let's see. So we obviously had talked about that. So you yourself are a fan of the show. And have you seen? Are you up to date with the show? Have you watched pretty much all of it, or
pretty much all of it? I haven't caught up to every single last episode because it's gonna wreck me.
you mean emotionally, or just like
I'm not ready,
not getting the sleep you need?
Yeah, I'm actually a very fragile person. So these shows are awesome for me. But it definitely takes a lot out of me. Like I care about these characters so much that I'm just like on pins and needles. Like every episode is like the red wedding for me, and I'm just like, no, like, because you just don't know. You don't know when someone you love is going to get pulled into something and not get out. And so it is. I'm waiting to finish the last few episodes over the holidays where I could just kind of breathe and let it wash over me. I don't have to like do an approval or like write a chapter.
I don't know if you folks are that far behind, but spoiler alert, I know a lot of people that were really upset about Glenn when
I
just walked away. They're like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah, it was hard, but I think like honestly that was part of the challenge even working on the game, where like I don't know a lot of games. Alien is about this, and it does this well, I think. But like, where death is a part of it. Death, when you play most of games, that's like the end. Like, no, we can't have that happen. Oh no, 0 health points, right? Game over, party wipe. The fact that a PC or an NPC can die and it's part of the experience. You're just supposed to role play through it. You're supposed to just keep going and find a reason to keep going. And if you're the person who died, pick up a new PC and you keep going. Even as a player, you find ways and vehicles to come back in. That's really hard, but like, that's real. You know, like Glenn, when that happened, you know, you shall not be named. When that happened, it was traumatizing. Like I remember that scene. I will remember that scene for as long as I'm a fan of this IP and then some. But you still have to choose to keep going. And like the challenge of telling that story and role playing that, it is a very it's a very unique nut to crack, where you have to put people in a place where they're comfortable enough to face real loss and still go like, okay, what do we do next? You got to really love a character and love a world to be able to put yourself through that and see what you're made of. So as hard as those moments are, and as much as I'm biting my fingernails of what's going to happen at the end of the latest spinoff, you know, that's part of the reason why I signed up for it. You know, like it's part of the reason why I love it. And you know, every time one of my favorite characters you know, kicks the bucket, or the domesticated tiger leaves the show. I'll read tell Shiva I love her and then keep on going. So it is an interesting IP like that.
So you consider yourself a glutton for punishment?
I do, unfortunately. I don't know what that says about me, but I really feel there's like a catharsis there of like, you know, I mean, I work on stuff like Blade Runner and Dune and Alien. Like, I like being in a very dark, inhumane, hopeless place and finding hope anyway. You know, finding good people anyway. You know, I love those stories. I love being in the position to show that I'm one of those people, that I'm capable of that. Like, there's something about it that you put me in the darkest place possible, and it will be this ball of light for me by the end. I have no idea what that says about me, but it just, I think that's why I gravitate to a lot of these IP. For whatever reason, it almost brings out the best.
I think you've got this, Atreyu. You got this.
Scale replica.
Yes! Yes! For those of you that aren't following along, that's the Never-Ending Story. Classic fantasy film. And
one of the best 80s movies in the world.
Yeah.
Raised on that stuff.
I met the actor that played him.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I hear he's super nice.
Really cool, nice guy. He's got tattoos and everything now too.
Oh, I know. Yeah, he's like a rock star. So
totally.
Yeah, he was like, when I was growing up, of like, if I'm ever going to be cool, Atreyu, it's like one of the icons of, like, I don't know what it was, but it was just like, man, that kid, like his hair and like everything about him was just like, I want to grow up to be Atreyu. And like my parents are like, he's your age. There's no growing up to it, but like, but he has a horse. He has like Artax, like,
you're like right.
It's like right. He was like a live action Link. Like it was. I was in love with that whole story. Oh my god.
Oh man, I just remember I have a very vivid memory of the Sphinxes, the two.
Southern oracles. Yeah.
Billy Crystal, wasn't it, as well, in there?
Yeah, he was right before that. Yeah. Or no, he was shortly thereafter.
He was the little.
Yeah, it was. It was. I don't know. I'm always grateful for growing up during the times where it wasn't a given that the things that you imagine can be brought to life.
That wasn't Billy Crystal. Never mind. It was somebody else.
I'm
mixing it up with Princess Bride.
Princess Bride. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Another one of the immortal greats.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's. I feel like we felt so privileged when there were like 8 bits and 16 bits. And story just started to be realized on a screen. And I'll date myself, and I don't care. But like, I think
there with you.
That's the fun of tabletop RPGs, like, because it's such theater of the mind. It's the most unbridled creativity I've ever experienced, particularly since it's so collaborative, and you really just have to let go of the control of it for the most part and just play your role and hope it turns out by the end. But I feel like, particularly if you grew up during a point where not everything was perfectly realized in HD, and your imagination did have to fill in the gaps and did have to take those leaps of faith. There's just something about the tabletop role-playing game that just scratches that itch for me, and that makes me feel like I'm right back there watching Never-Ending Story, except I'm the one writing our text now.
I'm waiting for someone to make that one. That would be a good one too.
Not saying I haven't tried.
Oh man.
One day, sir.
One day. So I've actually asked Matthias something similar, but you may have a different sort of interaction given your also role as a brand manager and so forth. But have you had an opportunity to sort of meet or have conversations with the comic book creators of Robert Kirkman?
I wish. Yeah. No, I've heard they're lovely people, but our spiel is just solely based on what AMC has done in TV. So there's like a line drawn as far as like rights go, as far as which sandbox we play in. So we are firmly in the AMC sandbox, diving in like one of those plastic ball pits.
I will say at this point, thank you, AMC.
Yes, we love you. Thank you for letting us make awesome games.
So, I read in one of your interviews, and obviously we're having this conversation, but you talked about your love of the drama and the way the Walking Dead kind of show delves into the relationships and the harsh situations and the thrills and the adventure. So, you said you were a gamer as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are some of the games that you enjoy outside of the publishing end?
So, I'm a huge RPGer.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm currently on like hour 330 something in Red Dead 2.
Wow.
Put me in Valheim or Witcher 3 or Baldur's Gate, like just about any RPG where you can play at least 400 hours doing every obnoxious fetch quest known to man and just getting lost in the world. That's my jam. I could play RPGs until my eyes bled. I love it to death. My girlfriend's the same way. We'll just sit there and then like, what birds do we hunt today? And it's just, that's it. Like we would move to Skyrim if there was a relocation program. So those are huge. As far as like RPGs and things like that goes, I tend to like the ones that are more like rules light, role play heavy. So like I love Call to Cthulhu, I love Tales from the Loop, I love Blades in the Dark. Like I like those ones that can just kind of let loose, but they have those mechanics where it's not just about rolling for damage or like armor points. Like I still love that. I played so much 3.5, it's obnoxious. Like
so you're an explorer, not a murder hobo?
Yes, I would say that. I would say if anything, I really annoy my GMs because I love breaking systems. I love designing them. This is what I found out about me and how I've kind of fallen in all this because I love breaking them. So like if there's an alchemist, I will be the one learning how to be an alchemist. If there's like an arcane trickster, I will learn how to do that. If there's like a trick shot that is supposed to do something that really the rules shouldn't allow it to do, but I find a way to do it. That's how I will creative problem solve. I love being that person, which makes it very hard for my game masters. But that's why I like the mechanics, and I've gravitated to a lot of those other engines that have role play mechanics in there, where there are stress, there is sanity, there are those things that give you the tools where it's not just me forcing my GM to allow me to be crazy. It is encouraging me to be so. It's empowering me to Hudson to the nth degree. I love the math in how story has been coming out and becoming like more of the forefront in role-playing games these days.
Yeah, you guys have managed to do that with Walking Dead and taking less emphasis on combat and more in the actual RP and the actual storytelling and immersiveness of it.
Yeah, well, it's the interesting thing about The Walking Dead is that it could be any game you want it to be in a way that I don't know if I could say that as much on most of the other games that I've done. Like you could make it about scavenging, you could make it about fortifying a safe haven, you could make it about world exploration, you could make it about factions and politics, you could make it about combat and war. You could tell any human drama you want to, and it's still the same sandbox, and it's still right outside your door. And it is just so vast that in a way we couldn't make it super crunchy. We couldn't just focus on one thing because every other person would come to the table and be like, well, that's not my Walking Dead. That's not the story I want to tell. So like the crunch is there. If you want it, there are those dials, and we put some new mechanics in it, like the threat meter that I'm just obsessed with. But for the most part, you get to decide where you go and what kind of character story you tell. And I think it was pretty liberating to be able to do that in a way where we weren't just saying, well, this is the adventure you have to do. Like with Blade Runner, the core rule book, you're a Blade Runner, you're cracking cases. We know what we're getting into. With Walking Dead, so many people had so many different perspectives of what they wanted to see at the game table that it made the world the main character. in a way that I don't know. I really fell in love with that. That was fun to make the environment the star of the show.
Yeah, it's what I found, looking through the core mechanics book is that it's almost like every play sessions can sort of become, it's almost episodic, really.
Yeah,
You don't
very
have
much
to
so.
you don't have to focus so much on leveling and experience. I mean, you don't get me wrong, you do
Yeah.
get experience points, but it's not designed to become this giant escapade of like thousands of points and worrying about like getting 5,700 points to get to the
Yep.
next level. It really is. It's a focus on what happened in the events that occurred. And you can also do these games. I know a lot of people, and I'm speaking mostly to the viewers at this point, but if there's a I know we can't always schedule games as frequently as we'd like to, and there's often times where you'll go a couple weeks between your gameplay. And the beauty of this is that you can kind of set it up, like I said, it's episodical, so you can sort of set it up in different time periods. So it could be like weeks in the in-game world, and you just sort of role play what has happened during that time, and then you kind of pick up where you left off with new situations and that your game master has kind of set up, and it's really intricate and really cool how they've managed to orchestrate this.
Yeah, it's the thing also that I love about it is that you get to opt in how much you invest into it,
Mhm.
And so like if you just want one game night and you just want to give people that like epic event episode everyone knows happens, like the
Mhm.
horde's coming, the factions are coming down, baseball bats out. If that's what you want to do, you just want to have a really amazing co-op experience and just all you have to do is survive by the end of the night, you could technically do that and you never have to play ever again. If you just want one awesome night of The Walking Dead, you've got everything possible. But then if you want to build your own micro society, if you want to build your own hilltop, like if you want to actually make this a lived-in world, you can. And the thing that I'm like forcing my friends to do is you can even cross over your game nights where like someone has worked, one gaming group has built up their group and has built up their stronghold and they're really good at scavenging or they're really good at this, but somebody else has been building up their own group and their own safe house and they're maybe really good, maybe they're the only ones with a doctor, like you could actually even cross over your game nights in a way and have like cameos into one another's world.
Such a great idea.
It's so much fun. Like I love inviting people to like Valheim and be like, look, I built something. I can't do that a lot in RPGs, we're with tabletop RPGs, but with The Walking Dead, I could just focus so much on like the perfect stronghold. And then I could literally invite people to come visit. And it's canonical and it's in their story. And then we exchange and then they move on and do their next game session. Like I've never been able to do that with another tabletop game. And it's just been wildly fun of just the sheer scale of how many campaigns you can do and how many settlements and characters you can create. Like it really is this living, breathing world if you want it to be. It's been a lot of fun.
And to piggyback off that, for my Star Trek and Deep Space Nine fans, you can pretty much run an entire episode or game session or a couple game sessions right there without even leaving your haven.
Yep.
All your drama and your strife could all happen right there in one location.
Yep. I think particularly because of one of the mechanics they did, if I can go on a tangent, is
please do.
There's this thing that if people have played Free League games before, you're probably familiar with stress mechanics. And in most of the other games where you'll find it, the stress mechanics really only hit you. It's about what choices you make, how that impacts your ability to make new choices. With this threat mechanic and how they've tied it into this new concept of an anchor, where PCs and NPCs, it's not just about you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's about how everyone else in your group, PC and NPC, are also doing. Because if one of you loses control, if one of you raises your voice and loses your temper, it could unsettle everything. And it is something where you always have to be very conscious about how everyone else is doing and what they're doing and how they're doing it. And are you okay? Is this okay? Let me check our, like, your maintenance of your world is so small and so precious, where you could probably play an entire campaign, never leave your stronghold, and only through the character interactions alone, this would be gripping drama. Because if there's just one couple that breaks up, or someone who just gets their ego hurt, or someone who gets sick, you know, like there's such subtle things that you can introduce into this fragile system, where because the threat meter keeps on going up as the stability of your group keeps on falling apart, where it doesn't take a lot for that thing to start notching up, and suddenly there's not one walker way down, but there's a horde coming your way because you just couldn't keep your group together. And so it is kind of unique to watch people go through that, where, you know, it's so fun in things like Alien to Hudson out and just be like, game over, man, and like you're just losing your mind. And I adore that, and I'm always Hudson. But like in Walking Dead, can't be Hudson. There are still people who will do that, but you'll kill everybody. Very, very upset. So there's this level of table talk, and like I'm in this world, but I'm aware of what's happening at the same time. There's a duality of playing the characters, but also being very aware of how your character's natural organic reactions are going to have a ripple effect. That I have played a lot of this game by this point, and you'd be surprised how little of it is about scavenging, or is about the walkers, or is about finding stuff. It is literally just putting a few people in a space that if just one thing goes wrong, everything goes wrong. It is perfectly tailored for that.
Well, I'm actually going to be the game master for our game.
And you really?
Yeah,
awesome.
It gets more interesting. So I've been playing role-playing games since 1998, which would be I played D&D Second Edition, or actually Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. And I'll be honest with you, in all that time on and off of gaming, this will be my very first as a game master. So I'm popping that cherry for this particular game.
Oh my God.
And I've already been told by our usual game master, he's excited to be a player, and he's like, oh, you better be prepared. He sent me a little meme, and I sent him another one in response that said, just remember, crying is a free action.
Yep, that's right. Yep, you will be just fine.
So I am trying to learn this system as fast as I can. We've got till this Sunday, which is going to be interesting. But I'm nervous, excited. It's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm so excited. I'm so scared. Honestly, if you, it's one of like my secret hopes for this game, that because it's so relatable, you don't have to be like, what mythology are we in, and how does this spell work? You'd be like, no, just grab a bat, go outside, good luck. Like, it actually could be an easier way to like learn how to be a game master, because like the barrier is a bit lower. You know, you got to learn the core engine, but for the most part, outside of that, everything else is pretty much common sense. And so, you know, you can wing it. That's what I'm saying.
You know, the beauty of it is I've kind of set myself up for success, hopefully. So I'm a former Marine. I spent 6 years active duty.
Wow.
So I'm going to draw on some of that, but I also, I'm like, where can I place this? I'm like, I took the starter box. I was like, yeah. I'm like, forget that. I want a custom story. So I was like, all right, I'll go to my old alma mater and I'll use that as a location, and then we'll go from there. I've got some, and I took some people I had met through other businesses and stuff. I'm like, all right, you're all going to be characters in my story. Do I have your permission? They're like, yeah. I'm like, great. So you're all NPCs now.
Yep.
So
yep.
I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun.
That's awesome. That is kind of rad. The fact that like we could technically set a story in just about any place where we've been, and like I adore that. Like if at some point I will be running a campaign at like, the college that I went to, or like I know at least 4 people who have run a campaign at Comic-Con.
Are you, by the way, are you going to Comic-Con this year? Are you going to San Diego?
We'll see. I used to go, like I went for maybe 15 years straight, and then the pandemic hit, and now there's so many tabletop gaming conventions that are right around the same time that it's like Comic-Con or Gen Con. And I'm like, I really like Gen Con.
Well, I mean, Comic-Con's not till July. I don't remember when Gen Con is going to be. But...
It's like 2 weeks after. Yeah, it's. I know, but it's like a week to step away from my haven here is tricky.
All right. Well, I'll tell you, I'm going if
Are you on?
So yeah.
If I am there, we will high five something.
Oh, definitely. I know I'm trying to watch our time here, but so you've also worked in comics. You were an editor, is that correct?
I've been working in comics for a long time now. I started at the Jim Henson Company. I was their head of publishing.
No way.
Let
me guess. Fraggle Rock.
Yep.
Yes.
It was the first graphic novel anthology we did. I also wrote 2 of the stories, 2 or 3. 2 of the stories read, and it was a blast. Like it was again during this times in film and TV where no one wanted that kind of stuff. But I knew that like I would read this comic, I would read this manga, I would play this game, so someone has to be like me. And that ended up me being the head of publishing, making all of their books and comics and manga and stuff. But Fraggle was my first. That was, I mean, we did like the Farscape comics and a few other things before that, but the one that was like mine, of like, this is my baby, was Fraggle for sure. It will always be one of my happiest moments making Fraggle Rock.
This is so awesome.
Yeah, but ever since then, I've been making some form of comic for a long time.
I also saw you did something with Call of Duty. Is that correct?
Yeah, we just had the tabletop game hit Kickstarter. So yeah, that's one of our brands. So we've got like Alien, Apex Legends. We did the RPG for Altered Carbon.
Diablo,
Yeah, Diablo was just released or announced that one's coming next year. That one's so good. It's gonna be so much fun. Oh man, we actually got to be at BlizzCon and announce it too, and the fans were like the most lovely, wonderful people. It was the first convention I'd been to since the pandemic, and it was like an adrenaline shot to the heart of just being surrounded by so many people who just purely loved it.
All right, you ready? Welcome to the town of Tristram. I am Deckard Cain.
Yep. So you'll be staying a while and listening. I wholly expect you to be playing a game. It is insane how much fun it is.
We'll have to have you at our table. You know, we have a table that is it's a coffin-shaped table, completely modular. It's 9 feet 2 inches long, about 5.5 to 6 feet wide. It sits
good life choices.
Yes, it sits 8 players, 4 per side, and a game master.
Oh wow, that is radical. Yeah, no, it is. You will have some fun. Yeah, play testing starting pretty soon. I'll get you in on it. Roll
you know, I have you at the table. I'd love to have you come join us, please.
Oh yeah, I know. I mean, we're like close, aren't we? Like you're fairly close to us.
Yeah.
So
yeah, west side. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So ladies and gentlemen, we will be running our live play session on Twitch Sunday, December 10th at 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time at Dungeons Divided. It'll then be uploaded to YouTube later in the week for those that can't make the live stream. Joe, you think you might be able to stop by and check us out?
I would want to, but because of the whole flu thing, it just.
Oh, I don't mean like literally come in. I meant check us out
Yeah,
on
of
Twitch.
course. Well, yeah, that I could do. Yes, that kind of sharing is caring. So
Yep, there you go.
yes, indeed.
Excellent. For those of you ready to dive into your own apocalyptic adventure, the Walking Dead tabletop role-playing game is available now on Amazon and Free League Publishing's online store, available in hardback or digital copy. Once again, a huge thank you to Joe LeFavi from Genuine Entertainment for being so generous with his time. Originally, we had planned to do this in our studio face-to-face, but unfortunately, Joe has been under the weather. I hope you feel better soon.
I didn't want to be your outbreak monkey, but I appreciate you hopping on virtual with me. This has been a lot of fun. And I am stupidly excited for your first game master.
I am too, and I'm sure we'll have other opportunities to meet and get to know one another.
I would be shocked if we did not. That would be unfortunate.
But in the meantime, please take care of yourself. Maybe go snuggle with the kitties.
I most certainly will.
I did my reading, so that would be Mooncake and Cookie Puss.
Oh yes, indeed. Those are my kitty cats. That makes me so happy. Yep, they are almost 2 years old now.
Oh, adorbs.
Yep.
Again, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah,
this has been
my
amazing.
absolute pleasure. Yeah, absolute pleasure. So please enjoy your post-apocalyptic wonderland.